Sonic 1 was a massive success when it released in 1991, meaning that Sega knew they needed to release a sequel to capitalize on their new mascot. And so, in 1992, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was released. Sonic finally made a friend with the addition of his new pal Tails. At this point, Tails is probably just as iconic as Sonic, as he's appeared in almost every single game in the series since. He's also a great meat shield. Whilst it's true that the first game was pretty good, Sonic 2 makes it look like complete garbage because it's just so much better. It's faster, the levels are way better, the graphics are beautiful, well as beautiful as a 16-bit game's graphics can look. I mean, just look at the purple water, the bosses are way better than last time, Tails is a great meat shield, you can hold down on the D-pad and spam the shit out of the jump button to do a spin dash, which makes you get a huge amount of speed almost instantly. Okay, maybe I need to slow it down a bit, but I can't help myself, this game is just so great. For starters, the overall visual presentation of the game has been improved. Personally, I don't think graphics are that big of a deal in most cases, as long as the gameplay is fun, that's the important part. But while Sonic 1 wasn't a bad looking game in the slightest, the second game takes steps to look much better. Sonic 2's overall visual presentation is a lot lighter and colourful, which helps each zone feel more distinct. Speaking of zones, there are way more this time around, and they cut them down to 2 levels instead of 3, meaning they feel like they drag a lot less, and most importantly, there's no labyrinth zone! Wait, no. Most importantly, the levels actually let you go fast. Unlike the first game, which feels like it goes out of its way to slow you down over and over, this game is actually fast a large majority of the time. I mean, just look at how fast I'm going in Chemical Plant. You couldn't even get close to that level of speed in the first game. Holy shit, Sonic barely stays on the screen! Which, admittedly, leads to a problem with the levels being fast. This game is so short as a result of this. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, as I think having a 2-hour game that's consistently fun is far more ideal than a game that's 10 hours but fun for 2. However, it just feels a little sad when you realise only an hour in that you're almost at the end. I think this is probably more of a problem for returning players than a first timer, but it honestly bums me out whenever I replay this game as I'm just kind of done with it almost straight away. But regardless of how long or short the game may be, one thing cannot be denied, and that's the fact that it is consistently fun. Running around faster than ever with level design that is far more creative. Sure, Green Hill 2 isn't the most original stage ever, but you can go really fast and collect a lot of rings. Casino Night is a casino, I think that's kind of obvious, but you can win rings through landing in the machines, you can fling yourself on the pinball flippers, let's not think about Sonic and pinball too much more right now though. You can also push down on these long springs and then release to be flung off for a burst of speed. All of these things are introduced in one level and they all feel like natural additions and not gimmicks. Every stage of this game has some kind of small gimmick to make it stand out actually. Chemical Plant has the moving blocks, which can fuck off. We've also got the oil in Oil Ocean Zone, which instead of killing you acts more like quicksand, giving you a chance to escape before it kills you. Speaking of different things in the zones, every zone has a boss. God, this is an awful segue. Now, remember how I said the first boss in Sonic 1 was probably one of the absolute easiest? That's nothing compared to the first boss in this game, which is an absolute cakewalk, and practically anybody can beat it without losing their ring. Yeah, I'm somewhat of a Sonic 2 professional myself. I'm not going to lie to you and say that the bosses at the end of each zone are revolutionary or anything like that, but they get the job done. What is annoying though is sometimes you can be bouncing off the boss to get multiple hits in a row, and Tails jumps in too, leading to him hitting instead of you and you falling into the pit below the boss. Thanks, Tails. I've praised this game a lot so far, but I can't keep kissing its arse all day long. There are some problems here, and the major ones start to crop up towards the end of the game. One problem that definitely impacts enjoyment are the special stages. These are much easier to access now compared to last game. You still need to get 50 rings, but you can actually enter the stage from a checkpoint instead of at the end of a level. These special stages are not great. You run through a 3D half-pipe collecting rings and dodging mines. You have to get the amount of rings the game tells you to get to win. But not only is it impossible to know what's coming up next half the time, but Tails can actually fuck you over. He follows your movements, but there's a delay, meaning if you try to swerve out of the way of mines at the last second, Tails will just run into them anyway. Definitely the one example of him not being a great meat shot. If you do beat all of the special stages though, you get Super Sonic, which is definitely not stolen from Dragon Ball Z. You run faster, you're immune to damage from enemies, but you can still drown and get crushed. Metropolis Zone can just fuck off. Remember how I said every zone has 2 acts now? Fuck you, Metropolis has 3. And the enemy placement in this level is just straight up horrible. Suicidal stars that can knock you off screws and the fucking slices. Oh my god, I fucking hate these things more than anything. You have practically zero time to react before these motherfuckers throw their arms at you, because normally they throw their claws as you're landing from a previous jump, meaning you can't jump over them in time. Top this off with the fact that they put one of these guys in a fucking lift right after you scale up a screw trying to dodge kamikaze stars. I genuinely thought I died due to a glitch the first time I saw this, but no, it's just the game being a bitch. After you finally make it through Metropolis, you get a plane level. It's not the worst thing ever, but I really don't have much to say on this part. It feels kind of unnecessary. Also, Tails fucking dies at the end of this stage. Which transitions us into Wing Fortress Zone, containing my least favourite boss in this entire game. This boss is so frustrating to me. You may say it's because I'm impatient, but at least to me, this boss goes against everything the game works so hard to achieve. The entire game is fast, and the majority of bosses can be beaten in less than 20 seconds. You may see this as a bad thing, as it's not super challenging, but it feels so satisfying. This boss right here though, not the case. You have to hit this laser beam when it opens up, but you can't reach it with a standard jump, meaning you have to use these flying platforms that have spikes on the bottom of them. What this often leads to is you getting hit by the laser beam, then scrambling to pick up rings before being hit by the bottom of a spike platform, and losing even more rings. You can also have rings fall out of the arena too, because that's fun. Once you do make it past that abomination of a boss fight, it's time for the final showdown on the Death Star. I mean the Death Egg. The final gauntlet of the game where you fight two bosses back to back with 0 rings. Mecha Sonic and the Death Egg robot. Yes, the Death Egg robot on the Death Egg. Really interesting and original name for a robot. These two are tough, and in comparison to the first game, they really feel like worthwhile final boss fights. The key to these fights is memorization, so each time you give it a go, you learn from the mistakes you made before. Sure, Mecha Sonic seems really difficult initially, then you realize he does the same stuff every single time, so after a few good tries, you make short work of him. So you beat the two of them and send the Death Egg crashing down back to Earth, with Sonic himself also falling to his death, and then he dies. Sonic just straight up dies at the end after falling through the atmosphere. Definitely shocking that both the main characters just straight up die at the end of the game, but hey, it's a bold creative decision.